Good morning. This is Robert Sin at CEO Technician on X, at Goldfinger on CEO.ca. And this is Goldfinger Capital. This is a two-part series on Hercules Metals here in spring 2025, Spearing the Leviathan. It's going to be a two-part series. The first part is just going to be on some observations, regarding the chart and some patterns in the trading of the stock that I've observed over the last couple of years. And then the second part is digging a little deeper into the situation the company finds itself in today, the opportunity available to investors, and some of my thoughts on this year's drill program. So the first part of the video is open to the public on my YouTube channel. The second part is subscriber only for $8 a month on my Substack, Goldfinger Capital. If you like this video, if you enjoy this content, this free content, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps us get out to a larger audience. So let's get into it. I'll be making some forward-looking statements in this video. So here's the Hercules chart. This is a weekly chart since summer 2023, basically since they started to drill that first deep hole that made the discovery, hole 2305 in Idaho. And then you can see the roller coaster ride, the big rally after the discovery was announced on October 10th, the Barrick gold investment in November, topping out at $1.62 a share. And then the crash back down as holes 21, 26 were announced. And then the 2024 drill program went slower than everybody expected, right? And we really had a big shakeout in the Hercules share price in the second half of 2024, falling as low as, I think, 45 cents, if I'm not mistaken. So a high of 162, a low of 45 cents, currently trading 67 cents or thereabouts. So definitely at the lower end of its range the last 18 months, call it. But notice that the chart formed an ascending triangle pattern throughout the final months of 2024, the first couple months of 2025. And then just recently in the last month, it broke out above a level of key resistance, 68 cents, got all the way up to 78, and then we're back to retest this range. Also notice that volume spike there off this bottom at 53 cents. Stock charts doesn't show all of the Canadian volume, but this shows the magnitude of the jump pretty well. And then it's been trailing off the last couple of weeks as buyers have taken their foot off the pedal a bit and allowed the stock to come back in a bit. What are the green and yellow boxes on this chart? Well, the reason why I drew those is because my assessment is that the big long-term support based upon evidence from June and October, November of last year, that 50 cents is a big support level. It's also a big psychological level. It also equates to roughly a market cap of 100 million US. Roughly, it's actually, I think it's actually a little bit less than 100 million now with the Canadian exchange rate, but let's just call it 100 million US. So that's sort of the bottom end of the range. That would be, if the market got really pessimistic on the prospects for drilling this year, maybe we could drop back to 50 cents over the next 4 to 6 weeks as drilling starts to get underway in Western Idaho, right? And the green box, well, Hercules hasn't really traded above $1 since the heydays of late 2023, right? I mean, yeah, it it touched up near $1 a couple times very briefly in early 2024 after they announced holes 21 and 26, but it didn't stay up there long, right? So clearly $1, that big round number level, is resistance, right? So we have support at 50 cents, big resistance at $1, and we're trading 67, 68, 70 in that area, right? So sort of in the middle of the range. And basically, my thinking is that, let's say drilling is 1 month away. Let's call it May 1st. Between now and then, if the market gets more optimistic on Hercules prospects for this year, I would say it could trade closer to $1, whether that's 80 cents or 85 cents. I don't know, but closer to $1. The more optimistic the market gets, the higher the price will be, right? If the market gets more pessimistic, well, we'll trade closer to 50 cents, right? That could be 60, it could be 55, or it could be all the way down to 50 cents, right? So this is just sort of my gauge on, investor sentiment and the expectations for the drill program. I think 75 cents would be smack dab in the middle of the range. And actually, if Hercules is trading 75 cents on May 1st, I'll be quite pleased. It would show me that the expectations are reasonable. They're not overdone, and there would certainly be plenty of room for upside in the event of good drill results, right? And maybe they do find that potassic core, that early porphyry center that they've been hunting the last couple of years, right? So overall, this weekly chart, is very constructive in my opinion. In fact, if this pullback stops right here and we start to move back up, I would say that would be very bullish. But even if it consolidates a little further for the next couple of weeks, I don't think it's a big deal, right? And I think that actually an important level of support is 60 cents, and I'll tell you why in a second. So there's a pattern that I've witnessed since I started following the stock, quite frankly, in October 2023, since I started trading it. And it really became pronounced just the last couple months. You can see I have these house trays, including the ATS exchanges. And I have February and March of this year. And then I have all the way going back to January 1st, 2024. Well, what do you notice here? Well, the top house on both time frames is CIBC. And since January 2024, CIBC is 20 million shares net bought, right? Average 73.5 cents, right? It's about 14.4 million Canadian dollars net, right? That's big. And it's way above BMO, but BMO is number 2. Okay, so that's worth noting. And then Merrill Lynch is number 3, and then on down the list. Well, just the last couple of months, here's CIBC again. Roughly 7 million shares net bought, 4.3 million Canadian dollars. So CIBC, and this is something I wanted to make this presentation simpler and not 4 hours long, so I just used these 2 slides, but you could look at different time frames and you'll see the same thing. CIBC number 1, BMO number 2. And then let's go back to this chart. So here's February, and the CIBC buying really picked up in February and continued into March. And look at what the price did. Look at what the chart did, right? And we've seen that before. Okay, we've seen that before a couple of times, right? At the end of last year, there was a CIBC buying spree in here. And we saw it also in the spring of 2024 a couple times, right? Well, it gets more interesting. So if you go to the CDS report and you look at, well, where are these shares being sent, right? Because the broker is CIBC, but where are the shares being deposited. Oh, look, there's only one that it could be, 7 million shares, Citibank. The numbers are not exact, but it's close enough. I mean, 6.92 million bought through CIBC. Maybe that's not 100% one entity, but maybe it's 90% one entity or 80%. And then they're using BMO for the other purchases. And you add it all up. Well, this buyer could be using more than one entity, but sending all these shares to Citibank. And you can see that Citibank is holding 28.337 million shares. Now, this is not all one entity, but, you know, when we're talking about a junior mining company like Hercules Metals, there's not a whole lot of institutional investors who are going to trade in this stock, right? It's a pre-revenue company. It doesn't meet share price and market cap thresholds for a lot of institutions, a lot of funds, quite frankly, right? I think there's one ETF that holds shares in Hercules, but it's a pretty modest amount, right? It's not 28 million shares. It's nowhere near that. It's not even a million. So this is just interesting. I don't know who this person, I don't know who this entity is. I don't know. I'm just pointing this out, right? This is a mystery, right? It's a mystery buyer through CIBC, possibly also through BMO, right? I don't think it's Merrill Lynch. I think that's a different entity, and I'll just leave it at that. And then these other ones are too small to really care about. A lot of this is retail, right? But there is a mystery buyer, and there's enough evidence. There's more evidence than I'm even showing, again, because I wanted to keep this more concise, that there's a buyer who clearly is sophisticated and has substantial capital to be able to buy, millions of shares, buying through more than one entity, but they're sending the shares to Citibank. And most likely, if the entity is clearing and holding shares through Citibank, they may be U.S. domiciled. That's just my speculation. That's just based upon what I know, making that up. But who is it? And when you look at the share total, and this again, so this is obviously not, this bank is a big bank, so they have way more than one customer. But the patterns from the CIBC BMO buying, if you add it all up, since even late 2023, it seems to me like the total purchases are somewhere around 22 million shares from this, mystery buyer. Okay, it's not the 28.3 million, because again, that's way more than one customer, but 22 million. And then if you look at Hercules total share count, 250, 260 million shares, well, do the math. That's 8 or 9% of Hercules shares, right? And once you get past 9.9%, you have to report in Canada, right? Just curious, just making observations. I don't know who this is, and I don't know if they have 8% of Hercules shares, but there are some very intriguing patterns in the trading activity, just even recently here in 2025. So it's food for thought. Who is the mystery buyer? And then I want to just point out these patterns just on this is 195-minute chart. So it's about 3-hour bars. Sometimes I like to break it down on the shorter time frame and not just look at daily or weekly. But you can see the volume by price bars here. A lot of volume was churned between 50 and 60 cents in late 2024 and early 2025. A lot of volume was churned. And you can see the biggest volume by price bar on this chart is at 60 cents. Remember I said that key support level for me now is 60 cents. That's one of the reasons why. Also, just look here, early March, support 60 cents. And look back here, 60 cents was resistance January, February, right? So it's important level that's stopped price multiple times, right? So 60 cents is now a big support level. But let's think back to February 18th, February 20th. Um, what happened here that may have helped to contribute to this bottom? Well, Hercules put out the final results of 2024 drilling. I think hole 21 and hole 19 may have disappointed some people. They were hoping for more like hole 24-20. But when you dig down into that news that they put out there in February, there were a lot of key details in there, a lot of important information, and the news release in my mind was quite good. And I guess some people actually agreed. And we saw this pretty nice rally at the end of February that got all the way up to 68 cents. There's that 68-cent level again, then pulled back into early March. And then what happened March 4th? Another news release announcing almost 50% expansion of Hercules land position in Idaho due to a lease agreement with IDL, the state of Idaho, essentially, right? That was a big deal. And people who understood the significance of that, expanding their property package by nearly 50% and getting some really key ground both to the south and to the west of the core property, quite significant, right? They have really, at this point, with 25,000 acres tied up, the prime ground in the heart of the Idaho Porphyry Belt. Yes, Bering has over 100,000 acres, but I think that Hercules, 1/4 the size, has the best ground in the heart of the play, essentially, right? And so, boom. So these buying spurts make sense because this is a more sophisticated investor. That's my interpretation, who understood the context of the February news and the early March news, right? Buying activity surged, volume spiked, price went up to 77 cents. Sort of put in a double top, call it a double top at 78 cents here a couple of weeks ago, and now pulling back to support. And this is just a purple oval that I drew, just speculating that maybe in the next week that will be the next tradable low in the chart. Okay, and so that is those are my chart observations. That's my spiel on the mystery buyer. I wonder if we'll ever know, right? I mean, certainly if they cross 10%, we will know. But if they stay down at 8 or 9, or they start selling, then we may never know. But this is certainly a lot of clues here, and something maybe worth watching in the future. Maybe they'll change their pattern. Maybe it won't be through CIBC or BMO. Maybe they'll change their brokers. I don't know, but it's very interesting. Thanks for tuning in. And if you want to see part 2, please subscribe to my premium Substack, Goldfinger Capital, and follow along with the rest of the journey with me. Thank you.